human mind just slips in and out of different routines depending on what's called up by the situation. The reason we kind of wish our minds were different is that the person who's trying to control the mind is not really that much in control of what's happening.
¿Por qué estamos aquí? ¿Qué ocurre y por qué estoy aquí? ¿De dónde venís? El cerebro puede hacer millones de cosas.
¿Cómo se puede seguir viendo el mundo como algo real si el yo que establece que es real es intangible?
Son preguntas que abordan qué nos parece el mundo, o si hay alguna diferencia entre cómo lo vemos y cómo es en realidad. El hecho de plantearse estas preguntas más profundas crean maneras nuevas de estar en el mundo. Es un soplo de aire fresco.
Our true consciousness does not exist in our brains or in our bodies. This means that consciousness shapes our reality. This seems difficult to accept for most, and it is quite understandable. In modern times, we are taught from an early age how to think rationally and tangibly.
Our body is a molecular structure. It's a mass of molecules and a very high speed of vibration. Mind is movement, and body is the manifestation of that movement.
Vivimos en el mundo de la ilusión, pero además la ilusión es diferente para cada uno. Primero porque la percepción que tenemos es muy parcial, percibimos con 5 sentidos totalmente inexactos, y con esos sentidos el cerebro hace una composición, se inventa lo que ve y se hace su propia película. Pero el invento, la película, la ilusión que se hace cada uno de la realidad es diferente.
¿Quién ve entonces? ¿El cerebro? ¿Los ojos? ¿Qué es la realidad? ¿Es lo que vemos con el cerebro? ¿O la realidad es lo que vemos con los ojos? Y la verdad es que el cerebro no conoce la diferencia entre lo que ve en el entorno y lo que recuerda, porque se activan las mismas redes neuronales. Entonces surge la pregunta, ¿qué es la realidad?
Recibimos grandes cantidades de información. Entra en el cuerpo y la procesamos. Se introduce a través de los órganos de los sentidos, se va filtrando y en cada paso eliminamos información. Al final, lo que emerge en la conciencia es lo que más nos interesa personalmente.
El cerebro procesa 400.000 millones de bits de información por segundo, pero solo somos conscientes de 2.000. Y la consciencia de esos 2.000 bits de información es solo sobre el entorno, el cuerpo y el tiempo.
This is a test. How many times does the white team pass the rubber band ball? Go! If you answered 13 passes, you are correct. But did you see the black belt gorilla? Go!
Jerome Bruner was one of the biggest influences on me and continues to be. His ideas were seminal in changing American psychology, changing American education.
My passion has basically got to do with how human minds make this sort of reality. We'll never know how the world really is. We always have to construct what we think the world is. We do it in describing the human situation by telling stories. We do it in science. We do it in interesting kinds of ways of thinking of new images and so forth. Understanding is like discovering.
Nosotros creamos la realidad. Somos máquinas productoras de realidad. Y cabe la posibilidad de que todo esto no sea más que una gran ilusión, y de la cual no podemos salir para ver qué hay verdaderamente fuera de ella. En el exterior no hay un exterior independiente de lo que pasa en el interior.
Antes se creía que el cerebro era una especie de armario lleno de cajones en los que se iban archivando los recuerdos. Se solía pensar que cada área cerebral estaba especializada en una sola función. No obstante, los avances en neurociencia en las 3 últimas décadas han permitido desmontar esa visión del cerebro.
La red es la clave. La red neuronal, sobre todo las redes de la corteza cerebral, son la base de todo el conocimiento y de toda la memoria. Se forman a lo largo de la vida con la experiencia, por el establecimiento de conexiones. Se van ejercitando en el curso de la vida y así subsisten. Claro, al mismo tiempo se van debilitando algunas de estas conexiones y se pierden memorias, y se pierden neuronas y se pierden sinapsis. Pero se van creando nuevas. Es decir, los módulos están a la base. Es el ver, es el tocar, es el oír, es el moverse. Pero la conciencia del conocimiento y la conciencia de la memoria está en la red, que es en la agrupación.
Es relacional.
Es relacional. El código de la memoria, el código del conocimiento, es un código relacional. Es un código de relaciones. Lo más cercano que hay a ello, desde el punto de vista psicológico, es la psicología de la Gestalt, la psicología de la forma. Una cosa se ve, tiene sentido y significado por las relaciones entre sus partes. Claro. Pero el total, el significado de aquel objeto, lo definen las relaciones entre las partes. Y no es reducible a las partes en sí. Es decir, que el todo es mucho más que la suma de las partes.
¿Qué hacemos con el cerebro?
Todo. Nos ajustamos al medio ambiente. El cerebro es la interfase que hay entre nosotros y el medio ambiente. Cuando digo medio ambiente, no quiero decir solo el ambiente externo, sino el ambiente interno. El milieu interno.
Nuestro cerebro, por así decirlo, está diseñado para hacernos sentir más parecidos de un día a otro, de una semana a otra, de lo que verdaderamente somos. Esto nos ayuda muchísimo porque nos permite desempeñar los mismos papeles, nos permite esforzarnos menos en intentar resolver todas esas cosas cada día. Imagínate cómo sería si cambiaras mucho y fueras consciente de lo distinto que eres cada mañana.
Estarías perdido.
Estarías un poco perdido y también tendrías que esforzarte mucho más. Mientras que si puedes asumir que casi todo es exactamente igual, entonces puedes tirar adelante y concentrarte en lo nuevo. El cerebro es muy bueno cuando toca trabajar con la novedad, pero si las cosas son iguales, tiende a ignorarlas. Así que todo lo relativo a uno mismo que es igual o parece igual puede ignorarse tranquilamente, dejarse de lado y de este modo puedes levantarte y centrarte en cualquier nuevo reto que te traiga el día. Así que es muy útil pensar en uno mismo como el tipo de cosa que no cambia mucho porque es tranquilizador y porque nos hace la vida más fácil.
Pero no es verdad.
No, porque la gente subestima hasta qué punto su cerebro y su yo puede cambiar.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you are warm. Accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming. You sink like a stone, for the times they are changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging, so get out your new one if you can't lend a hand, for the times they are changing.
Every thought is an energy form, and as such we could call it an entity. And there are many people in this world who are stuck with hostile, life-denying, continuously critical and attacking entities that they carry in their head, and they believe that is who they are. And they are continuously attacking themselves. And if they are not attacking themselves, they attack others around them. But the thoughts that go through your mind, of course, are linked to the collective mind of the culture you live in, humanity as a whole. So they are not your thoughts as such, but you pick them up from the collective, most of them. And so you identify with thinking, and the identification with thinking becomes ego, which means simply that you believe in every thought that arises, and you derive your sense of who you are from what your mind is telling you of who you are. And the more you believe in it, the more lodged, more deeply lodged they become in your mind. And then you are burdened with a heavy ego. You are the ego, which is not as an entity apart from thought. It is thoughts that you have identified with. And the first moment of freedom comes when you realize that certain thoughts have been going through your head for years, perhaps, and that they are only thoughts, and that you are not the thought, you're the awareness. In my case.
The left brain deals with logic, details, facts, patterns, practicality, science, and math. as the right brain deals with feeling, intuition, symbols, images, risk-taking, philosophy, and religion. These are represented by the left and right brain, yin and yang, black and white, light and dark, and most every other duality. Both are vital to our spiritual and physical health. The intangible parts of our existence, such as emotions, are part of the true reality of higher consciousness. If emotions are part of a realm that we cannot experience with our five senses, then how is it that we are all aware of our emotions? Science has now bridged a very important gap between physical and ethereal, or spiritual.
Many people at the present time experience some form of challenge or limitation coming into their life, as many of the structures, the external structures in the world, are becoming shaky, and some have collapsed already. The crisis is not to do with this or that on the surface of things, but concerns the very structure of these organizations, in the same sense that the human mind, the problems of the human mind, have not to do with content of whatever is the content of your mind, but the very structure of the mind, the human mind, that needs to change. The challenge that many people are encountering at this time is actually that which will push them into a new state of consciousness. That is the possibility, that is the promise. Whenever you encounter a crisis situation, whether it's personal or collective, there is the opening into a new way of being.
A few months ago, I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing, and how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective, and I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking? And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe. And ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there. It comes and it goes. It's like riding a wave. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. But at least I know where I want to go. And I want to take as many people with me as I possibly can, because the feeling is amazing.
Me gusta desarrollar mi conciencia para comprender por qué estoy vivo, qué es mi cuerpo y qué debo hacer para cooperar con los designios del universo. No me gusta la gente que acumula datos inútiles y se crea conductas postizas, plagiadas de personalidades importantes. Me gusta respetar a los otros, no por las desviaciones narcisistas de su personalidad, sino por su desarrollo interno. No me gusta la gente cuya mente no sabe descansar en silencio, cuyo corazón critica a los otros sin cesar, cuyo sexo vive insatisfecho, cuyo cuerpo se intoxica sin saber agradecer estar vivo. Cada segundo de vida es un regalo sublime. Me gusta envejecer, porque el tiempo disuelve lo superfluo y conserva lo esencial. No me gusta la gente que por amarras infantiles a mentiras las convierte en supersticiones. No me gusta que haya un papa que predica sin compartir su alma con una papisa. No me gusta que la religión esté en manos de hombres que desprecian a las mujeres. Me gusta colaborar y no competir. Me gusta descubrir en cada ser esa joya eterna que podríamos llamar Dios interior. No me gusta el arte que diviniza el ombligo de quien lo practica. Me gusta el arte que sirve para sanar. No me gustan los tontos graves. Me gusta todo aquello que provoca la risa. Me gusta enfrentar voluntariamente mi sufrimiento con el objeto de expandir mi conciencia.
I grew up to study the brain because I have a brother who has been diagnosed with a brain disorder, schizophrenia. And as a sister and later as a scientist, I wanted to understand why is it that I can take my dreams, I can connect them to my reality, and I can make my dreams come true. What is it about my brother's brain and his schizophrenia that he cannot connect his dreams to a common and shared reality, so they instead become delusion? So I dedicated my career to research into the severe mental illnesses, and I moved from my home state of Indiana to Boston, where I was working in the lab of Dr. Francine Bennis in the Harvard Department of Psychiatry. And in the lab, we were asking the question, what are the biological differences between the brains of individuals who would be diagnosed as normal control as compared with the brains of individuals diagnosed with schizophrenia, schizoaffective, or bipolar disorder? So we were essentially mapping the microcircuitry of the brain, which cells are communicating with which cells, with which chemicals, and then in what quantities of those chemicals. So there was a lot of meaning in my life because I was performing this type of research during the day, but then in the evenings and on the weekends I traveled as an advocate for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. But on the morning of December 10, 1996, I woke up to discover that I had a brain disorder of my own. A blood vessel exploded in the left half of my brain. And in the course of 4 hours, I watched my brain completely deteriorate in its ability to process all information. On the morning of the hemorrhage, I could not walk, talk, read, write, or recall any of my life. I essentially became an infant in a woman's body. If you've ever seen a human brain, it's obvious that the two hemispheres are completely separate from one another. And I have brought for you a real human brain. Thank you. So this is a real human brain. This is the front of the brain, the back of the brain with the spinal cord hanging down. And this is how it would be positioned inside of my head. And when you look at the brain, it's obvious that the two cerebral cortices are completely separate from one another. For those of you who understand computers, our right hemisphere functions like a parallel processor, while our left hemisphere functions like a serial processor. The two hemispheres do communicate with one another through the corpus callosum, which is made up of some 300 million axonal fibers. But other than that, the two hemispheres are completely separate. Because they process information differently, each of our hemispheres think about different things, they care about different things, and dare I say, they have very different personalities. Excuse me. Thank you. It's been a joy. Our right human hemisphere is all about this present moment. It's all about right here, right now. Our right hemisphere, it thinks in pictures, and it learns kinesthetically through the movement of our bodies. Information in the form of energy streams in simultaneously through all of our sensory systems, and then it explodes into this enormous collage of what this present moment looks like, what this present moment smells like and tastes like, what it feels like, and what it sounds like. I am an energy being connected to the energy all around me through the consciousness of my right hemisphere. We are energy beings connected to one another through the consciousness of our right hemispheres as one human family. And right here, right now, we are brothers and sisters on this planet, here to make the world a better place. And in this moment, we are perfect, we are whole, and we are beautiful. My left hemisphere, our left hemisphere, is a very different place. Our left hemisphere thinks linearly and methodically. Our left hemisphere is all about the past, and it's all about the future. Our left hemisphere is designed to take that enormous collage of the present moment and start picking out details, and more details about those details. It then categorizes and organizes all that information, associates it with everything in the past we've ever learned, and projects into the future all of our possibilities. And our left hemisphere thinks in language. It's that ongoing brain chatter that connects me and my internal world to my external world. It's that little voice that says to me, hey, you got to remember to pick up bananas on your way home. I need them in the morning. It's that calculating intelligence that reminds me when I have to do my laundry. But perhaps most important, it's that little voice that says to me, I am. I am. And as soon as my left hemisphere says to me, I am, I become separate. I become a single, solid individual, separate from the energy flow around me and separate from you. And this is the portion of my brain that I lost on the morning of my stroke. On the morning of the stroke, I woke up to a pounding pain behind my left eye. And it was the kind of pain, caustic pain, that you get when you bite into ice cream. And it just gripped me, and then it released me. And then it just gripped me, and then it released me. And it was very unusual for me to ever experience any kind of pain, so I thought, okay, I'll just start my normal routine. So I got up and I jumped onto my cardio glider, which is a full body, full exercise machine. And I'm jamming away on this thing, and I'm realizing that my hands look like primitive claws grasping onto the bar. And I thought, that's very peculiar. And I looked down at my body, and I thought, whoa, I'm a weird-looking thing. And it was as though my consciousness had shifted away from my normal perception of reality, where I'm the person on the machine having the experience, to some esoteric space where I'm witnessing myself having this experience. And it was all very peculiar, and my headache was just getting worse, so I get off the machine, and I'm walking across my living room floor, and I realize that everything inside of my body has slowed way down. And every step is very rigid and very deliberate. There's no fluidity to my pace, and there's this constriction in my area of perception, so I'm just focused on internal systems. And I'm standing in my bathroom getting ready to step into the shower, and I could actually hear the dialogue inside of my body. I heard a little voice saying, okay, you muscles, you got to contract, and you muscles, you relax. And then I lost my balance, and I'm propped up against the wall. And I looked down at my arm, and I realized that I can no longer define the boundaries of my body. I can't define where I begin and where I end, because the atoms and the molecules of my arm blended with the atoms and molecules of the wall. And all I could detect was this energy. And I'm asking myself, what is wrong with me? What is going on? And in that moment, my brain chatter, my left hemisphere brain chatter, went totally silent. Just like someone took a remote control and pushed the mute button. Total silence. And at first I was shocked to find myself inside of a silent mind. But then I was immediately captivated by the magnificence of the energy around me. And because I could no longer identify the boundaries of my body, I felt enormous and expansive. I felt at one with all the energy that was, and it was beautiful there. And then all of a sudden, my left hemisphere comes back online, and it says to me, hey, we got a problem, we got to get some help. And I'm going, oh, I got a problem. So it's like, okay, I got a problem. But then I immediately drifted right back out into the consciousness, and I affectionately refer to this space as La La Land. But it was beautiful there. Imagine what it would be like to be totally disconnected from your brain chatter that connects you to the external world. So here I am in this space, and my job and any stress related to my job, it was gone. And I felt lighter in my body. And imagine all of the relationships in the external world and any stressors related to any of those, they were gone. And I felt this sense of peacefulness. And imagine what it would feel like to lose 37 years of emotional baggage. Oh, I felt euphoria. It was beautiful there. And then again, my left hemisphere comes online and it says, hey, you've got to pay attention. We've got to get help. And I'm thinking, I got to get help. I got to focus. So I get out of the shower and I'm mechanically dressed and I'm walking around my apartment and I'm thinking, I got to get to work. Can I drive? And in that moment, my right arm went totally paralyzed by my side. Then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm having a stroke. And then the next thing my brain says to me is, wow, this is so cool. How many brain scientists have the opportunity to study their own brain from the inside out? And then it crosses my mind, but I'm a very busy woman. I don't have time for a stroke. It's like, okay, I can't stop the stroke from happening, so I'll do this for a week or two, and then I'll get back to my routine. Okay, so I got to call help. I got to call work. I couldn't remember the number at work. So I remembered in my office I had a business card with my number on it. So I go into my business room. I pull out a 3-inch stack of business cards. And I'm looking at the card on top. And even though I could see clearly in my mind's eye what my business card looked like, I couldn't tell if this was my card or not, because all I could see were pixels. And the pixels of the words blended with the pixels of the background and the pixels of the symbols, and I just couldn't tell. And then I would wait for what I call a wave of clarity. And in that moment, I would be able to reattach to normal reality. And I could tell, that's not the card, that's not the card, that's not the card. It took me 45 minutes to get 1 inch down inside of that stack of cards. In the meantime, for 45 minutes, the hemorrhage is getting bigger in my left hemisphere. I do not understand numbers. I do not understand a telephone, but it's the only plan I have. So I take the phone pad and I put it right here. I take the business card, I put it right here, and I'm matching the shape of the squiggles on the card to the shape of the squiggles on the phone pad. But then I would drift back out into La La Land and not remember if when I come back if I'd already dialed those numbers. So I had to wield my paralyzed arm like a stump and cover the numbers as I went along and push them so that as I would come back to normal reality, I'd be able to tell, yes, I've already dialed that number. Eventually, the whole number gets dialed, and I'm listening to the phone, and my colleague picks up the phone, and he says to me, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, he sounds like a golden retriever. And so I say to him, clear in my mind, I say to him, this is Jill, I need help. And what comes out of my voice is, and I think, oh my gosh, I sound like a golden retriever. So I didn't know that I couldn't speak or understand language until I tried. So he recognizes that I need help, and he gets me help. And a little while later, I'm riding in an ambulance from one hospital across Boston to Mass General Hospital. And I curl up into a little fetal ball. And just like a balloon with the last bit of air just right out of the balloon, I just felt my energy lift and I felt my spirit surrender. And In that moment, I knew that I was no longer the choreographer of my life, and either the doctors rescue my body and give me a second chance at life, or this was perhaps my moment of transition. When I woke later that afternoon, I was shocked to discover that I was still alive. When I felt my spirit surrender, I said goodbye to my life, and my mind was now suspended between two very opposite planes of reality. Stimulation coming in through my sensory systems felt like pure pain. Light burned my brain like wildfire, and sounds were so loud and chaotic that I could not pick a voice out from the background noise, and I just wanted to escape. Because I could not identify the position of my body in space, I felt enormous and expansive, like a genie just liberated from her bottle. And my spirit soared free like a great whale gliding through a sea of silent euphoria. Nirvana. I found nirvana. And I remember thinking there's no way I would ever be able to squeeze the enormousness of myself back inside this tiny little body. But then I realized, but I'm still alive. I'm still alive, and I have found nirvana. And if I have found nirvana and I'm still alive, then everyone who is alive can find nirvana. And I pictured a world filled with beautiful, peaceful, compassionate, loving people who knew that they could come to this space at any time, and that they could purposely choose to step to the right of their left hemispheres and find this peace. And then I realized what a tremendous gift this experience could be. What a stroke of insight this could be to how we live our lives. And it motivated me to recover. 2.5 weeks after the hemorrhage, the surgeons went in and they removed a blood clot the size of a golf ball that was pushing on my language centers. Here I am with my mama, who's a true angel in my life. It took me 8 years to completely recover. So, who are we? We are the life force power of the universe with manual dexterity and 2 cognitive minds. And we have the power to choose moment by moment who and how we want to be in the world. Right here, right now, I can step into the consciousness of my right hemisphere where we are. I am the life force power of the universe. I am the life force power of the 50 trillion beautiful molecular geniuses that make up my form, at one with all that is. Or I can choose to step into the consciousness of my left hemisphere, where I become a single individual, a solid, separate from the flow, separate from you. I am Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, intellectual, neuroanatomist. These are the we inside of me. Which would you choose? Which do you choose? And when? I believe that the more time we spend choosing to run the deep inner peace circuitry of our right hemispheres, the more peace we will project into the world, and the more peaceful our planet will be. And I thought that was an idea worth spreading.